Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Transcending Humanity. This is episode 9. I'm Vanessa, as you know. Our topic this week is the trans femme side of transitioning. Last week was the trans max side, so I have two lovely ladies with me here today. As always, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, rate, do all those things on whatever platform you're watching, listening. You hear this from everybody, so whatever, just do it, please. Help us grow. I know I'm a jerk. So this is going to be part 1 of the Trans Femme. We're going to be doing a part 2 later. I don't know when. And we also will be doing a part 2 of the Trans Mass. So I will let my two co-hosts today. We have our guest, Marcia, and our new host joining us, Taryn. I'll just go alphabetical. So sorry, Taryn. Marcia starts with an M.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcia Darling. I am one third of the hosts of Trans Spotting, and I'm really excited to be here today talking with Vanessa. We've known each other a little while. It's my first time meeting Taryn, so this is really fun. So I'm really
Same.
happy to be here.
And I guess you're up, Taryn.
Okay. Sorry, I was waiting for a cue or something.
We
Taryn
don't do
Townsend.
that here.
Oh my God, really?
I guess
Sure
not.
told
I
me
guess
that.
I should say a little bit more about myself so
You
people can get
can.
an idea of what I
Of
am.
course.
Yeah, please do.
Um, let's see. I live in a red state. I am a inventor. I am a thespian. I am an athlete. I am a musician. I'm not very talented at very many things. But I do like cooking, and I spend a lot of time talking about politics and trans issues. I'm an advocate for homeschoolers and people who have deconstructed their religion. And yeah, I'm trans also. I'm trans femme. I've been transitioning for a little over a year now. So that's really fun. I'm really, it's been the best thing that I've ever done for myself. People ask me if I'm happier now, and I say, well, to me, transitioning was the light that allowed me to see happiness and recognize it. There was a lot of times that I thought that I was happy before my transition, and I would have said that I was happy. But compared to where I am now, that was like happiness. It was just a dim shade of the happiness that I can feel now. Life is harder in a lot of ways, but I'd never trade it and I'd never go back.
Okay, that's really fucking well said. Thank you.
Yeah, beautiful. Hi,
Uh,
Taryn Talley.
yeah, good luck following that up.
Taryn Talley, pronouns she, her.
Oh, yeah.
So
Sorry. My pronouns are she, they. I forgot to say.
no worries. So I've been in creative and marketing for like over a quarter of a century. I'm super old. I came out of work in 2019. I started transitioning at the age of 50. And Marcia, I also agree, like, life was like kind of like black and white TV. And then transitioning, yes, there are challenges and the journey can be hard and difficult, but I feel like I live in a world of color. So for me, I'm head of marketing at a growth marketing agency in the Bay Area, loving California, loving the Bay Area, and just the community that's around this area. I try to be a positive voice for both trans, LGBTQ, 2SIA, so Two Spirit. I want to add that in there. And Indigenous issues. I also politically active and do some work. I used to do a lot of work on Twitter, and now I've moved to other platforms. But yeah, just trying to be a positive voice for the community and kind of just help people or be someone who can listen. So happy to be joining the podcast and just love the mission and looking forward to contributing.
Well, thank you. Okay, I like this group tonight. I think we're gonna have some fun. So, let's dive right in. So I mean, we have a number of topics. I just have kind of a rough outline, but I think we can also just kind of just talk as well. But
Let's have the topic and find out where the
okay.
conversation goes.
So the first topic I have is finding therapists, which is obviously rather difficult for our community, especially in red states like Marcia and myself. I was lucky enough to find one, but annoyingly, the rules say that we have to have letters from therapists in order to do any of our major gender affirming things. So, what experiences have you two had with trying to find therapists to do all that?
I have a feeling that our experience is in this are going to be very different, just in the two different worlds that we live in. So I'm excited to talk about this.
Okay, great.
Do you want to go first, Taryn?
Yeah, sure. So I did, for me, therapy was more like unpacking what I had to do and start on the road. So I did therapy. So transitioning at 50, starting HRT, September, I think this year, September is my 5th year. So starting HRT in 2018, I basically needed just to see a therapist to start HRT. But prior to that, I was always kind of understanding who I was and like who I am authentically. I saw two. So I was from a blue state also originally. So from the East Coast, born in Delaware, lived in Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania. So I was fortunate to find two amazing gender therapists in Delaware that helped me unpack everything I had to unpack and finally kind of step forward and understand who I am at the core, right? And that was life changing for me. And it's something I always direct people to is like, talk to that therapist, work this out, do the work. For me, coming out here in California, it's like, oh, you want HRT? Got to see a therapist. I'm like, no problem. Had a like 20-minute conversation. They're like, here's your estrogen, here's your spironolactone, and walked right out. So it was kind of a little bit easy peasy out here, but I'm sure it's a lot different, Marcia, where you're from or where you're living.
Yeah, it depends. I actually started my transition when I was living in Washington State, which makes it really easy to get started. Because Washington State is one of the best places in the world to be trans, honestly, because it's an informed consent state. So they just let you know what it's going to do to you. They ask if that's what you want, and you're like, yeah, of course it is. And then my doctor, okay, yeah. Let's back up a little bit because I actually had a really easy time finding a therapist, and I went to a website called the seculartherapyproject.org, which is a little offshoot of a organization that I volunteer with called the Recovering from Religion Foundation. And wanted to go there because I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to be getting a lot of religious nonsense in my therapy, which the previous therapy I had had in my life was a lot of religious nonsense, and none of it
Yes.
had helped. And I had gone to many, many different therapists, and they all were like, you just need to get right with Jesus. You need to get right with God. So I said, okay, well, that is what I will do. And then obviously that ended up not helping at all because it's not real. I mean, at this point, it's not real advice. And so, and plus, there's not any science or evidence based, material behind it. So all of those were pretty useless. And so I finally ended up getting my first therapist through that website, who ended up being a gender and sexuality therapist, which ended up being exactly what I needed. But they're very specific with the people that they vet on that website. And so I'm pretty sure I would recommend anybody who was on there. Generally, that website's for people who are recovering with religious trauma, which I was at the time, and then having it be a happy accident that my therapist turned out to know about trans issues and religious trauma issues was really, really useful.
Yeah, I'd say you scored the gold mine there.
Mhm. I was very specific in the way that I started looking. I did the same thing for my doctor because I know a lot of doctors can be really gatekeepy about the way that they allow trans patients and things like that. So I was searching around the area trying to find, like, are there any doctors that talk about LGBTQ issues or anywhere? And there was one who was showing up in podcasts talking about how important it is. And so I started going to her, and she's lesbian, and she's been absolutely wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. And so I'm like, there are, no matter where you are, you're going to be able to find those people. With me, it was just a few internet searches and then listening to people and finding the right places to look. Other people, it might be hearing it from a friend or somebody like that. So, but there's resources out there. There's a lot more resources out there than people know.
Yeah, there definitely are. There definitely are. I'm going to be sure to share those sites that you told me. If you can remember,
I'll
if you
just
could
write them
send,
in. I'll send them
yeah,
to
send
you
them to me in a
later.
DM. So, because I definitely want to put those in the description.
Sure.
I had a little bit more of a challenge with just some part of the Kaiser system. So Kaiser is like the most, for me, most trans-friendly health insurance I've ever had. So, I have had experience in California where just getting a PCP and walking into their office and just presenting, and they're like, I never really treated anybody like you. You might want to go see somebody else. And then I finally found a great doctor whose child is trans.
Aw.
And he just quit this healthcare system like 6 months ago. And I got a guy who I think got his medical degree in 1958. And in my first real meeting with him, he's like, "Hey, I never really treated anybody like you. It's going to be difficult," and it sends me to an endocrinologist. Now, I found endocrinologists a lot better through Kaiser than anywhere else. But so I talked to this endocrinologist just recently because I did my hormone levels and just gut checked everything, make sure everything was working properly. And he recommended two people who actually treat a significant amount of trans people in the Bay Area. So I'm going to move from the old guy. So sorry, that sounds kind of ageist, but I'm going to move from the 20th century to the 21st
Hey,
century.
it's not that
With
he's old. Sorry, I'm not going to interrupt.
no, it's fine. I mean, we're on a podcast. You can go ahead and interrupt, but I mean, closed-minded, old school. I need to find somebody who doesn't look at me like I just beamed down from a Vulcan science ship, you know?
Yeah,
I was going to say it's not because he's old, it's because he hasn't kept up to date on the latest literature.
exactly. He hasn't done his continuing education. Yeah, good thing he's not a realtor. For the realtors
Too
listening to
bad
this,
he's a doctor.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bad that he's a doctor.
it is too bad.
I went in to see him the first time for a foot problem because he was covering for my doc, and it was like, because I do strap on the heels every day at work, and he's like, he was looking at it, he's like, "I don't see anything wrong." I'm like, "Okay, dude, you can just tell that from looking at it? Where's the leeches? Because I could use a couple leeches too." I just doesn't work for me.
Need to have him wear one of those plague masks too. So just to really complete the illusion.
Mhm.
Therapy for me, I live in Ohio, and
I'm
like
so sorry.
I know, thank you. I can't wait to get out of this fucking state. Like in the past, I would actually, Marcy, our experiences are kind of similar in that, like, I could only ever find Christian-based fucking therapists, and they did me no good at all. And so I had to do a lot of searching around here because almost all of the ones around here are faith-based. And I found a really, really amazing one, and she works with a lot of trans people. So, but one of the weird things back to that, I started going to her right when I came out in order to kind of just wrap my mind around everything because I had lived 40 years in an extremely abusive family and in the family business running it, and I'd finally been free of that. And so I had a lot to unpack, obviously, coming out and all that stuff. But also, Ohio is informed consent, but for insurance to get any sort of procedures done, you actually have two letters, one from your therapist and one from another counselor in order to get any of your surgeries or what have you. So you can get your hormones informed consent, but I don't know how much longer that's going to be either because they're working on a lot of anti-trans stuff here too. So because my stepfather is actually, I've never met him, but he's actually State House representative, and I'm going to be watching very closely how he votes on these bills. And if he votes for them, I'm going to call him the fuck out because he has a trans stepdaughter. Yeah, so should be interesting.
Guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Um, our second topic is actually finding affirming care. So, you two have talked on that already. I guess I can talk about mine. Um, Somehow, I don't know how this is even possible, but there is a Pride clinic not far from me. It's in Akron, Ohio, and it's you walk in and there's pride flags everywhere, progress pride flags everywhere. There's the gender unicorn hanging on the wall of all the exam rooms, and they specialize in trans healthcare, in all alphabet mafia healthcare really, but um, so they know all the things, they can do all the blood tests and everything. So I got super lucky having that near me because like my old PCP was like, I don't know how to help you with any of this. This is just, I have no training in it because doctors don't really get much training in this. So now actually my current insurance doesn't cover the Pride Clinic, so I'm paying out of pocket, which sucks, but I had to switch insurance in order to get surgery because the insurance that covered my doctor doesn't cover the surgery in Ohio. There's only one insurance company in Ohio that covers gender affirming surgeries, and that's Oscar Insurance. So I had to go with them. But either you have any more notes on your affirming care?
I was just going to say it's interesting to me how much, especially like trans femme hormone stuff is really complicated because you have to, you have to have your T suppressor, you have to have your estradiol, you have to have your progesterone at some point. Some people say you don't need the progesterone, but then the people who get it always say, oh, it's totally worth having. Plus, cis women have it. It doesn't make sense not to have in your body.
Yeah,
Um, you know, it's kind of funny because a lot of it is like, well, let's try to get the levels to where they should be, and then let's find out how you feel. And like sometimes I feel like, oh, but I want more. It's almost like it's like this drug. You're like, oh, this is so good. I want more. But then if you have more, you might feel sick. So you need to have just the right amount. And so that's what a good doctor can do, I suppose. I know that sometimes, like when I started spirolactone, yeah, yeah,
there's more
the blue
estrogen.
pill.
Sorry.
Yes, thank you. When I started spirolactone, I have ADHD, and it really exacerbated my ADHD symptoms to the point where I really wanted to quit it. Plus, it was affecting my sleep, and it was affecting having to pee all the time was terrible. So
Spiral
I switched to.
sucks.
I was talking with one of my other trans friends, and she uses bicalutamide as her T blocker. So I switched to that, and then all of the symptoms from Spyro just vanished, and I could never go back to Spyro. It was like a poison for me.
It is poison. It's the worst. It's horrible stuff.
I know, like in Australia, they use Cypro. Oh, yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so for me, it's been amazing.
Uh-huh.
So I tolerate a lot of drugs well. So I totally get that and respect that like it definitely has some side effects. Yeah, like peeing like all the time for sure. But for me, it's been like just the combination of estradiol and spironolactone have been a godsend just for like mental health, just for my well-being. Vanessa and I have traded off pictures, so it's like, you know, I shared some of my results, right? And it's just like,
They're impressive.
I mean, to me, I guess I'm lucky because I'm hormone sensitive. So whether that's testosterone or estrogen, I get the max effect for both.
Hmm.
So like for me, it's like I've never, they say like testosterone is like that angry aggressive thing. I said for me, I've never had the worst road rage except for when I went on estradiol. So it was like I just like it brought out that like uber bitch, right? But it also brought out a ton of other stuff. So it's helped me not have to go through and do surgery for me. Like this is me without surgery. There was no FFS, right? There's no surgery, there's no breast augmentation, anything. This is 100% me. And I love it. I mean, I was in LA with visiting my sister. She turned around and slapped me on the ass. And she's like, girl, when did this come up? And I was like, I don't know, maybe a couple of months ago, but I was like, she's like, God damn. And I'm like, so that's what HRT did for me. And so like, I mean, it definitely, I think the point of kind of like what we're all making is that you really have to be sensitive to what you're experiencing and kind of really understand the complications and the prescribing info of the drugs, right? And you need that doctor to be able to provide that, like, listen at this level, blah, 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 blah. When I got my estrogen, and he saw my history of estrogen, right? I was at 240 on estrogen with testosterone of 7, right? As a measurement. So he saw that and he's like, this, that's too high for your age. And I'm like, I know, just had my first mammogram, I get it. Because every 5 years on HRT, we've got to do the mammogram. So I just had my first one, but it was like, he looked at me and I'm just like, I know, but I'm like, I started at 50, I had to catch up. So like all of this was catch up. So you got to have that really good open relationship with your doc or your endocrinologist for sure.
I would say for HRT for me, like starting on it, the first thing that I noticed was it was like this background static in my brain, like white noise from an old TV static. Like that had always been going on in my brain, quieted down for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that I had had that static in my head. And then once it was gone and cleared up, it was like, yeah, like you had said earlier, seeing the world in color for the first time. So that was the first thing that I noticed when I went on HRT.
That's pretty major. Um, yeah, for me, I think the first thing I noticed as well was the mental changes, just the way uh, in both good and bad. Because I've been a pro at masking my whole life without even really knowing it. I've actually since realized I am 100,000% autistic, um, which is kind of common in our community, anyways. And but so I always wore a mask of in no emotions. Like growing up, I was not allowed to show emotions. That emotions were bad. I just get the shit beat out of me if I did anything. Going on, estradiol has not just like let me drop my mask, but it took it and just fucking threw it in the corner. And I feel like a complete different person, but it also makes me a lot more stressful to be around because I am so fucking high strung all the time. I've actually started taking CBD because of it, because I'm kind of miserable to be around. We're kind of actually, this is actually putting us into the next topic, was talking about HRT, really. It's starting it starts off slow and it kind of creeps up on you. And the first thing that I noticed at least was mental changes for sure, because your brain is being entirely rewritten. All your wires being completely redone, and it's to the point where I don't know if you two have noticed this, but if you talk to a trans girl that has only recently transitioned versus I mean, like talking via text versus talking to someone that's been on hormones for a while, there is a complete definite difference in how the people who have been on hormones for who have been on hormones for a while interact. Like you can tell that you're talking to a girl, where earlier on in the transition it's like talking to a guy because there's still that testosterone like sneaking in the conversation. Have either of you noticed that, or am I just insane?
I think you're
No, I mean, I think,
insane, but I have noticed that.
Okay, I am insane.
I mean, I could see that. I haven't experienced that. Like I socially transitioned on social media in 2013. So, and like to me, it was just being me for the first time, and I never got any feedback like that. And that was like 5 years before HRT, you know. But I mean, I
I
kind of
think
get what you're saying with the. I'm sorry, but
I was going to say, I think what Vanessa was describing, there's a lot of like, at least for me and the people that I know, there's a lot of kind of imposter syndrome that you have to get over your first little bit when you're going through your transition. I know for me, like, for example, I didn't feel comfortable calling myself a lesbian until I started dating women as a woman. And then it's like, oh, yeah, well, that is my label. That is who I am. But early on, I was not comfortable using that label because I felt like I hadn't earned it or I didn't deserve it or that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I feel like that's really common with a lot of people who are just starting out their transition too. I know I had a hard time like like presenting femininely at first because I felt like I was doing something wrong somehow, or I was violating a social faux pas that I didn't know about, or that I did know about, but I knew
yes,
I needed to break it because I was trans. But it still is hard. There's this weird jumble in your head when you're going through that transition for the first time. A lot of people will start hormones before they do the social transition. A lot of people do the social transition before they do hormones. I feel like what you are describing is more people getting into the mindset
yeah,
rather than like um, having their brains rewritten by hormones. Because I don't really feel like my brain's been rewritten. I feel
really.
like it has a different filter over it.
Mine feels like it's completely rewired, but again, your results may vary. How about you, Taryn?
well, no, I mean, what I was getting to was more like the tone, right? And just how you present. So, like in the written word or the spoken word, like how you phrase things, how you look at things, like that's what I was understanding her phrase, like what she was
Yeah,
saying, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was
yeah.
saying.
And like for me in my social transition on social media, the content that I continued to push out for 5 years, nobody could tell, right? That there was no HRT or that I was assigned male at birth or anything like that. I think in terms of the rewritten piece, if I can just chime in, for me, okay, so I'm just, this is going to sound insane, so I'm going to say, um, I've always had a really fast healing factor for myself. Like recovering very quickly from injuries. When I started HRT, that stopped. Like
Really?
I had things that did not heal for weeks. So it took about 2.5 years for me, and it came back and everything went right back. Oh, I felt like things that were temporarily shut down had restarted again, right? After that, like it
Oh,
felt like
like the 2.5 year second puberty.
yeah, well, I mean, well, I'm gonna tell you, second puberty, for all those listening, second puberty sucks. The itchy, burning breast and all that good stuff, I mean, the results are great for me. But getting there was kind of relatively irritating.
Yeah.
But I felt like I felt like it was actually getting a bit of rewriting physically, right? Where my body was getting used to it and it was getting used to not having something and getting used to having something instead. And when it finally came back, I mean, that stuff was clicking for me in 2020. I was like, I just kind of hit my cadence. So it took me a couple of years, but I definitely noticed some of that change. For the mindset, not so much, but for the physicality of it, for sure.
This next thing, actually taking our meds, taking our HRT. So, you two are both, I believe, on testosterone blockers still. I had an Orky back in November, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. But because Spyro, like, same with you, Marcia, Spyro, like, it just, my brain just was, it was just complete shot. Like, I had the brain fog so bad, and the peeing every 45 seconds, especially living in a red area, I couldn't go anywhere um, because I was still pretty, uh, I only marginally passed now, but I didn't pass at all then. For the estradiol, I, for one, was on pills for a long time. I mainly took them sublingually, which, you kind of half get under your tongue, then half you wind up swallowing. And I just started injections last week. What has your, how have you guys had, why is my brain not working? What the fuck? Um,
You're
how's
tired.
your,
It's okay.
yeah, I am tired. How's your experience been with taking your blue pills or your titty juice? Titty Skittles or titty juice?
Skittles for me under the tongue, and that's how I got a 240.
Oh,
So I was
nice.
doing
Yeah.
like 4 milligrams a day under the tongue, and
Really?
the body reacted and gave me that 240 and gave me a giant ass and some nice boobs, and I'm happy with it.
Yeah. I would be happy to. I'm still doing the titty skittles too. There's been a bit of an issue with getting injectable estrogen in this area. So we're kind of like just sticking with that until that resolves.
Yeah, I was surprised that I was able to get the injections because I had heard that there was a nationwide shortage. So,
Yeah,
but
there
sounds like
is,
it still
yeah.
is on the West Coast. Um, I've been taking 6 milligrams under the tongue a day, and my estrogen was only 92. So my doctor's like, we're gonna start doing shots, but
You got to let it dissolve.
uh, I I do, but
Just got to
it's
be patient.
See,
I
that's
mean,
the thing. I like dropped it under my tongue and like went out and walked the dog in the morning. By the time I got
oh
back, it was all good. Everything
That's
was
what I
right.
do. I just leave it there
Yeah.
while I'm getting ready for the morning.
yeah, I'm too fidgety, I suppose. I just can't
But
keep
yeah,
it
six
there.
milligrams sounds high and not getting the results.
Yeah,
Wow.
I was definitely not getting the results. So,
Because
but
how many is six? Is that three
3
pills?
pills. Yeah, I
Three
took
pills a day?
one pill 3 times a day. So
That's what I take. I take 1.5.
1.5. Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
One and a
yeah,
half twice a day.
the shots for people, injections, there's two different kinds of injections. There's the in the muscle, which is the one I do. Then there's also the subcutaneous, something like that. And that goes into kind of like the fatty part of your butt. I've heard the sub Q is much more pleasant. The guys on the Transmask episode have agreed that that's a better way of doing it. But I'm doing the in the muscle shot, which it's not that big of a deal. The needle's itty bitty. I hate needles, especially like anything in my arm here. Like I'm getting my vaginoplasty in the end of August, and I'm not worried at all about that huge surgery where my entire undercarriage is going to be completely just ripped out and shoved in and, all that kind of fun stuff. Only thing I'm worried about is the fucking IV. So I don't like needles, but I do not mind the needle going in my leg. So anyone that's worried about that needle, it's not a big deal. It's an inch long, which sounds bad, but it's really not. It's so absolutely tiny. The only thing that you really feel is the juice going into your leg. But so if you have any needle anxiety and stuff like that, it's coming from me who absolutely hates that kind of shit. It's not a big deal. So hopefully that makes some people feel better.
I think that's a really good pro tip because when I was in third grade, I had a tonsillectomy. I had to have for a blood work. 3 grown men hold me down just to do some blood work. Like I despise needles. I lose my stuff. I'm like, just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
So, but I think I know what the needle you're talking about. It's almost like when you have to do the allergy booster, right in your arm after allergy testing. It's kind of like that really short needle that just you jam it in the arm and you're good.
Yeah, it's tiny. So
See, I'm the weird type of person that like watches when people give me IVs or like draw blood, and I want to see when it goes in because it's interesting to me.
Some gratuitous eye contact.
is it over yet? Has she stopped talking about that yet? No, but
So
I mean,
anyway, when the needle goes in my skin.
well, the world needs people like you too, though, because someone has to be able to administer these things. So I can never
Oh,
do
I
it.
don't really like doing it to other people, but to myself is fine.
Well, that's still much better than
Although I'm
no,
not a
I'm not.
doctor, so I could do it if I had to.
Yeah, I like popping zits, but
That's gross. Me
uh,
too.
yeah, people popping videos, and I had a dog who had a big skin cyst on her back that I would pop over and over and over again. It's so fucking satisfying. Anyway, this is getting off track. Um, either you have anything else to talk about HRT or
Yes, let's
anything?
talk about something else.
Okay, let's talk about tits. You guys want to talk about tits?
Sure.
Okay, I was thinking about naming
One of
this
my favorite
episode.
subjects that I never get to talk about enough.
I know, right? Because you guys don't talk about sex or anything or boobs or bodies at all on Trans Spotting. Not.
We do a little bit. What are you
I know.
talking about?
That was sarcasm.
Oh,
I
okay,
think it
good.
was sarcasm. Yeah.
Yeah, that was sarcasm. No, I love her show. Is anyone who is listening to this, you have to listen to her show. It's so fucking funny. Like
Yeah.
I've been driving along and listened to some of the things that they say, and like I almost steered off the road. I started laughing so hard. So, um, yeah.
I've never heard it, but now I'm going to listen.
Oh, you have
Aw,
to.
thank
You
you.
have to. There's some moments that like it's yeah, you have
We need
to.
somebody to go through and make a greatest hits of our
Yes.
podcast.
Yes. We we all need those super fans that like do all that shit. I don't have those. So yeah, body changes, growing boobs, skin changing, face changing, body shape, in the
Oh yeah, we're just going to
timelines.
talk about the whole experience then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Taryn is an example of where everything just fucking went right with that. Um, and I'm jealous.
Well, I mean, I
So
did some pre-work, right? Like I used to rub lavender oil, which is like a base plant estrogen, right into the breast. I mean, I did some
oh,
work beforehand. Like I did little things like that. I told you about using that cheap ass pump just to
mhm,
pull blood into it. I mean, I've got some huge areolas. I mean, I don't know if I shared that with you, but like
oh
I did a
yeah,
little work because I knew that being 50, it was going to be a harder hill for me to climb, right?
yeah,
And then having that reaffirming like slap on the ass from my sister was like, amen, like I'm here.
that had to feel
Um,
so good.
yeah, I mean, my partner refers to it as my one giant ass cheek because it just looks like it's like half of a human, right? So it's like, but I'm really happy with that. I mean, for the skin and stuff, I had I think it was 2.5 years of electrolysis. That was probably the most expensive, hardest part for me. I've never felt pain like having my upper lip done.
Um,
And I mean, I used to get high as fuck. And I still was like crying like a baby, just like, ah. And I
Worst.
think for me, like, you know this, Vanessa, Marcia, I don't know if you like saw any of my like my shares on social media, but I'm mixed race. So I've got the European, African, and indigenous. And literally my hair was like the three things. Like my person doing it, like Teeter. She was just like, oh my God, like, wow. She's like, are you black? I'm like, she's like pulling curly hairs out of my neck. So like that was kind of difficult because just like what the body was producing. But I learned a ton about skin. So like being 55, I don't feel like I look 55. So
No,
I
I
feel
was
like for me,
floored.
yeah, I mean, part of it's HRT, right? And part of it is what I learned going through electrolysis, which is hydrate, exfoliate, moisturize, protect yourself in the sun. I mean, yeah, I went out last weekend, waked and baked, read a book at the pool, right? But like I'm much more vigilant on that stuff. So I mean, I have a night routine, I've got a morning routine. Like all of this stuff helps, and like for me, not doing facial surgery because of like, just I don't want to erase what my ancestors have given me. So I want to like maintain. I mean, I even had hair come back. So like, where you start having a receding hairline, I've got a little bit right here, but I started seeing hair growth where I didn't have hair, and just so like I don't know, the entire experience for me has exceeded expectations. Like being 40, 45, when I was going through the mechanism and motions of doing this, I was like, oh God, this is gonna suck. Yeah, I'm not gonna be happy. I'm not gonna like this is gonna be horrible. And now I look at myself and I'm just like, God, what was I thinking? Right. Like it just worked out. And results vary, right, for everyone. And some people have other things that they need to work on that they want to better represent themselves or who they are internally authentically, right? So I
Definitely.
just got a little bit lucky. I mean, yeah, do I have some features that look a little bit more masculine? And you remember that AI that we tried for the headshots? Like I
Hmm.
had 30 or 40 of those headshots came out looking kind of alien,
Hmm.
right? Because I
Same,
couldn't
same.
reconcile my bone structure,
Hmm.
right? Saying female plus my bone structure, it was like cannot compute.
Yeah,
And I got something that made me look like I had one small eye. It was bizarre. But I'm okay with that, right? Like, so a computer can't recognize me. I'm good, but I'm really satisfied. Sorry, just soapbox or a little bit.
no, no, that's what we're here for. And it's like I look at you and you're fucking transition goals. So, and like when you told me that you were 55, I was like, wait, no, how's that possible? So I'm 41. I thought you were like my age or younger. So I'm like, okay, well, estrogen rocks. So, though cis girls are all jealous of us too, just because we stay on estrogen our whole lives, which kind of, helps all that stuff.
I was talking to one of my cis friends about that earlier because she's
Mm,
like, "Oh, I'm so jealous of you because your skin is so great." And I was like, "Well, like estrogen is a natural, like, it does make your skin better. But if you've had, it's kind of like lotion. If you've rubbed lotion on your body your whole life, you're not going to notice the differences as much as when you start using lotion for the first time."
yeah, it's
There's some of that.
yeah, very true.
So interestingly,
Hmm.
talking about getting mistaken for younger, um, before my transition, I was always clocked as like 25-ish, like 25 years old. And I'm 33 now. And so I started my hormones when I was 32. And so I don't get clocked as like a young person anymore. People assume I am my age, but I almost always pass as female. And so I think I just traded my youthful looks for passing, which I am okay with.
Yeah, there could definitely be worse things than that. So
Because I haven't had any electrolysis, I haven't had any laser, I haven't had any surgeries, I haven't had anything.
that's just shaving.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had much facial hair to begin with.
Oh,
I never had much facial hair. I never really had an Adam's apple. Like, there was a lot of like male features that I just never really had. And so, but when I think about the future, like thinking about FFS, I'd really like to just undo the damage testosterone did to my face.
same.
Like I can see my brow, like a bit of my nose, maybe the jawline a bit. Like I can see that. It's just not where I want it. You know what I mean? And I'd
Yeah,
probably be fine. I'm going to be fine in a year or two with how I am and with my bone structure. But every time I think about FFS, it's like, yeah, I want that. And that's like the one surgery that I'm always like, yeah, I want. The other ones I kind of oscillate back and forth between like, or but that one I'm always like, yeah, I really want that.
yeah. I mean, that's how I was for about 5 or 6 years until I just realized it's like, I'm not going to erase ancestors. I got what I got.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm confident. I feel good. I look in the mirror and I'm okay.
Well,
You
I don't
know,
want
and
to.
like,
I don't want to like change my face. I just want those little subtle things.
I know,
I
but
want to have the
when you
same face.
well, no,
I,
I understand
I get
completely.
what you're saying though too. Yeah.
My thing is a little bit more ethnic, right? So it's like when I was going in to talk to surgeons, and I did have a couple of conversations with that. Everybody they showed me was white, right? So like if you see the nose in profile, it ain't small, right? So like those are the things like for me, I feel like I don't want to look like just an average white girl. Like I want to be able to represent and be who I am. And that's not who I am, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and all the examples I got were that. So I'm like, it felt like they didn't really, they were like, hey, it doesn't matter who you are, we're gonna make you this. And that's what I got from Kaiser. And I was like, put a hard
Mm,
pass on that.
yeah.
I mean, I don't disparage people for like, listen, y'all, everybody has to do what they need to do to feel their best in this life, right?
Hmm.
So I support people doing anything that makes them feel better about themselves, right?
Yeah.
No judgment to me.
I support you too. Yes. I
Yeah, I
think that
mean,
what you have is a very valid, very lovely attitude
I
about it.
agree.
but for me, I just want, yeah, I mean, you know, I made my decision and I'm cool with it. I mean, my problem is not like with passing is I'm 200 pounds plus and I'm 6'1".
Same.
I kind of
Same.
look like an Asgardian. So like
Yeah.
it's relatively off-putting for humans. So it's like, you know, that's my problem. Like, you know, if they just see a picture of me, they're like, oh, okay. And they see me in person, they're like, yeah.
Yeah, people always like tell me like on my social media, oh, you passed so well. I'm like, you don't see me in person. Like yeah, I'm 6 foot, 235 pounds, and I I have a presence. So
Mhm.
um
I'm 5'9", 170.
oh, you lucky. Oh,
I am somewhat envious.
yeah.
I lost an inch of height from HRT
Oh
already.
my
I
God.
I haven't
No way.
measured myself yet.
Well, 3/4 of an inch,
That's very
which is
Wow.
common.
odd.
A lot
Yeah.
of people lose an inch or even two. Shoe sizes go down. I haven't measured myself to see if I've shrunk, but
I think my shoe
um,
size has gone down because I put some old ones on the other day and they felt loose.
that's a bonus then because finding women's shoes in any size that's not 8 or smaller is hard.
I still feel
Um,
like an ogre when I'm barreling down the street, though.
yeah, I hear you. I managed to get into size 12s now, but is you know, for surgeries for like the facial feminization for me, I've talked myself into like I'm still Marcia, you and I aren't too far apart in our time on HRT, and from what I've seen, it's like the 2.5, 3 year mark where things really start to in the face really start to kind of coalesce. And so I want to wait until after that to get the FFS, but I'm the same, like this brow and chin and all that stuff. Like some of the things I definitely want to have, just tweaked a little bit, like you. Um, but I want to lose weight first. I don't even know if I have an Adam's apple. My high school senior picture shows me with one, but I've been so heavy for so long. I don't know what I look like when I'm skinny, but I'm working on fixing that anyways. And I do want to do the voice surgery. I'm actually meeting with the doctor about that in July, and that would be done after my vaginoplasty, but it's kind of a thing where it's just an outpatient procedure, but you can't talk for 2 weeks. So I kind of want to have a job lined up before that so I can kind of fake it till I make it. Um,
I love that for you, but oh, I would lose. I still like doing those deep voices
I
sometimes.
know, yeah, we talked about that, and that's awesome. Um, I I just my voice gets so tired trying to modify it with both pitch and everything else. Like
Yeah, you just have
my
to practice.
yeah, but I it's a
Or
thing for
don't. You
me.
don't have to do voice training too.
Oh, I want to. I
Sorry.
have my dysphoria is like comes from fucking everywhere, so it's just annoying. But let's
That's
see.
valid, and I love that for you.
Yeah, and like for FFS, like following like Dylan Mulvaney, at first I'm like, because she had it at about her 11-month mark,
She had it
and
really early.
yeah, she had it really early. I'm like, that's too early. But then I'm like, you know what? Who am I to judge? So I was surprised to see that she got it that early, but I can also understand because she is in the public eye
Yeah, and
And
anybody who puts themselves out on social media, you can judge. That's the whole point of social media,
yeah,
is judging.
true. I don't like to judge her. Uh, but so for people that are kind of freshly cracking,
Can I give my like hot take on Dylan
yes,
Mulvaney?
yes,
Okay, I'm sure she's lovely and I'm sure she's wonderful, but I cannot stand her content. She is way too
perky.
she's too perky, and then also she kind of shows a side of transition that is highly gatekeeped to people who are very wealthy.
Yeah, that's definitely
And
like,
so it's not an authentic um, look into the trans experience.
mhm,
It's an authentic look into the trans celebrity experience.
yeah,
It's her
yeah,
feed. And like
That was perfectly said. Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, very well said.
I don't
At
mind
least,
her, but she also goes into that little like, oh, trans people are just focusing so much on the joy that she doesn't focus very much on like some of the challenges. But
yeah,
also, I am not here to judge. I'm sure
yeah.
she's a wonderful person.
She
Yeah.
has so much hate that's thrown at her. I don't really know if she has the,
She's a lightning rod because
yeah,
she's
she is.
popular. She has a lot of followers, so she gets the hate. And like,
Yeah.
so in
Well,
that
yeah.
instance, I'm always here to support her.
Hmm.
She's my sister in that way. I might not
Yeah.
like her content personally, but I'm going to be here to support her.
I'm kind of in the same boat. Like, I feel like, I don't know, it just feels like that celebrity transition or trans kind of persona is so centered on self, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's just, I don't know, it just leaves out so many people, right? Like,
Mhm.
I'm not a fan of her content. I mean, support her, you know, like a trans sibling, you know, you've got my support. Um, you know, backing you on the Bud Light thing. I just don't engage with her content at all. I mean, for me, like the worst one was Caitlyn Jenner. I mean, I will never forgive that bitch for
No.
what she did in 2016, like
Mhm.
ever.
Mm-mm.
And she does not speak for me. She does not speak for the community. And I'm like, just go away, bitch. Like we've had
Yeah.
a lot. And just the self-centeredness of like, I know like everything we do in social is has some kind of self-centering, but the message you should do should be focused on, I don't know, just it feels like not yourself, I guess. I don't know. But like I said, no judgment, support her, but just don't really engage with the content.
Mhm.
Now I don't support Caitlyn because that was just wrong.
Yeah, no,
Caitlyn
same.
is no, she's a horrible, she's just flat out a horrible human.
Can I go back to what we were saying about kind of how the celebrity transition is kind of very self-centered
Mhm.
and very like, hey, look at this, look what I'm getting to do, isn't this exciting, blah blah blah, or whatever. Um, One of the big reasons that I started my transition was for the people who were in my life, not just for myself. Because I know that the only way that I'm going to be able to love well and love the best that I can is by going through that transition. And so I'm not giving people the best version of myself until I transition. So for me, transition is also a selfless act.
Yeah, you fucking nailed it. That's so true. You can't really truly love others if you before you can truly love yourself.
Yeah,
So it's and when we're not out, we're not ourselves. And it's very
I
hard
feel
to
like
explain this to people,
that's
but
something that gets lost a lot because most of the questions people ask are things like, are you happier? Or um, is it good for you? Or something like that. Not a lot of people ask, how have the people in your life reacted to be able to seeing you living truly authentically?
mhm,
Because generally in those situations, it's like, I love this person who they are now more than I loved them. Like they're just more them. It's more who they are now. And I love that they get to be who they are and they get to love me in a way that they weren't able to do before. And I think that's something that gets lost a lot in these transition stories because a lot of times people have expectations and expectations aren't met and relationships get broken or things like that.
yeah,
And but when it comes down to it, if you're going to love well and you're going to love your family well, you need to you you need to take care of yourself.
exactly, exactly.
I did a lot of cutting myself. So
Did
like
you?
I just shut family off. I just shut friends off. I don't like to explain myself, and I'm doing this for me, so like for me, 5 decades of, I kind of likened it, you know, to that scene in the Pirates of the Caribbean where the captain bites the apple and it turns to dust in his mouth. Like that's how it felt for me for the first 5 decades, right? Of just no joy. Like what I thought was joy wasn't really joy. What I
Yeah.
did for me was to save my life, to take care of me, right? To prioritize me, to help me survive and thrive.
Mhm.
I was surviving okay with the masking and the just kind of like blending in with the humans, but I needed that. Like I didn't like I didn't really care what anybody thought, right? So I'm like, bye, see ya. Kind of felt like Deadpool jumping out of the helicopter to the plane. I'm like gone. Like I don't have, like I'm not going to explain myself, not going to deal with anything. If I come out to you, and that's a big if, you can deal with it then.
Mhm.
But like for me, I definitely was like it was probably a self-centered act for me. So less selfless. I totally get your point, but like for me, it was like I think I focused on myself for the first time,
Mhm.
and it felt good.
Mhm.
I think this really solidifies how you hear over and over again, there is no right or wrong way to transition. And just watching, if you're watching or listening to this conversation, there's two very different things there, and both are completely valid. So don't feel like you have to be constrained to rules. It's you do what is best for you, what's safest for you, especially. So yeah, it's just kind of wild to I say yeah a lot. It's wild
Yeah.
to hear all the different experiences. Like for me, I would say I'm kind of somewhere in between you two. Where yeah, I did it for me because I just was miserable and not who I was. That's why I like the being in the egg because it's really how it is. You're like in the shell, and then you finally start cracking your way out to kind of see, oh shit, this is what the world is. I knew I had to focus on bettering myself before I could start being better around my family. So, but as I've said before, I'm kind of difficult to be around in person anyways. So that's a whole other struggle.
Yeah, and I'm not. People like to be around me.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten that from you. You're both of you are very fun and pleasant people. So I'm not.
I don't know. I've got these two sides. Like one of my coworkers will tell you that I will cuss somebody out on the road driving to the airport and then come out and like turn my rental car in, and the woman who had checks me out is like, "Oh my God, I love your energy." My friend burst out laughing. She's like, "You just like cussed that guy out. Like, you're like, what is wrong with you? Like, can you drive?" And then this woman's like, "Oh my God, your energy's amazing." I was like, "Thank you."
Mhm.
I
So
love
yeah, I
being
got that
called.
two sides. So don't worry about that. I'm not all good.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
I love being called gorgeous. I love being complimented on clothes. Like I have this blue dress that everywhere I go, people love it, and that's it's so affirming to be told that you look good in something. I guess
My
it's
goal
something.
is to look good in a suit in a masculine, feminine way.
Yeah, yeah, I do
Oh my
love that
God, yeah.
look. That's so fun to be able to pull that off.
Mhm.
Um,
All right, so
to
like, have you either one done a photo shoot
Not
in just a
yet.
blazer with
Well,
no top on?
enjoy,
just a what?
That to me was something that I was like, I did that with my sister down in LA, and it was like, wow, it just was freeing.
What were you wearing?
I just did a black blazer, like a fitted blazer, female,
Ah, okay.
no top. So the girl showing on the inside of the jacket, open
Huh?
like about like that, and just did a shot. And I
Nice.
did several, but she had given me like a light smoky eye. She's a makeup artist. So I just went in there and did that, and it just, I mean, it felt good. Like I just loved it. Freeing.
I want to
yeah.
do that. That sounds really fun. But every time I just like getting my picture taken, so.
I found I talked about in a previous episode, but I had like this little phase for like a couple of weeks where I was just taking nudes, and it was so affirming that uh, people in our Discord have been bombarded by my tits. But
And mine.
yeah, um, but it's fun, it's freeing, it's liberating because we lived in all these years in these bodies that weren't ours. So now that we're finally, these things are starting to happen. If you're early in your transition, you're wondering when your tits are going to come in. They will come. There's no guarantees on size, and there's a lot of arguments on how progesterone works. The three of us, I believe, are all fans of it. I'm on 200 milligrams of it. Some people say it stops tit growth. Some people say it makes them bigger. So
It doesn't stop it.
yeah, I don't think so either. I've
The only
noticed.
thing that I've heard is that there's no evidence to show that it supports growth.
Mhm,
The reason that there's no evidence is because there haven't been any studies on it yet.
exactly.
Yeah, and so it's like,
So
well, of course there's no evidence because who's going to finance progesterone studies for trans women who aren't
mhm,
trans women? Trans women, like anecdotally and with the research that we've developed through the people or gathered, you can go to transfemscience.org or whatever, and
mhm.
it's like, yeah, there's actually evidence that it does, but just no peer-reviewed journals that are going to be publishing something like that yet. Eventually they will, but they aren't yet.
Eventually. But right now there's no money in it. So
I'm
yeah.
surprised there's not something in San Francisco in some of the health centers there. They've got to do some studies, or Kaiser's going to do something.
Mhm.
I
I'd
don't
be
know. I
great
mean,
if they did.
I know we talked about like breast growth and stuff, but I got to be honest. It was having relations with my partner that made that so much sweeter. Like,
Really.
holy shit. Yeah, it was freaking amazing, mind blowing. My head was exploding. So y'all got that to look out for too. So
Yeah,
I don't know if anybody else has that thing. I don't want to get too raunchy, but make it not safe for work, but it was fucking amazing.
this podcast is labeled explicit, so you can say whatever you want.
You can swear as much as you want at least.
Yeah, fuck shit ass, you know, all that. And it does go on YouTube, but we only have 31 subscribers, so I'm not really worried about being demonetized because we're still like a long way from getting to that point. So
I
um
always had really sensitive nipples, and then HRT just turned that up, and I was like, okay, I like this.
mine always hurt. I hated people touching it, but now I'm like I'm celibate until after my surgery because I don't want any possible use of my current equipment. Um, so I haven't had anyone play with my BAPS. Um, so I'm kind of looking forward to that because it sounds like it's a nice thing.
It's
So
fucking amazing. It's a
yeah,
life changer.
It's really good.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I'm I am
Cherish the
currently
girls. I really do.
Me
I can't
too.
wait to be able to do that. But it just honestly the idea of dating and or sex right now is absolutely exhausting, period. But that's a whole other story. So um but yeah, like when you're transitioning, early transition, just I think the best advice I have for people going to the feminine side, taking estrogen, stuff like that, is just give it time. Don't rush it. It's definitely a marathon and not a sprint, but things do start changing. And I suggest this is what I did. I never took selfies before I transitioned, really. Now I take fucking photos of myself all the time. And
Same.
yeah. And so, like, do Transition Tuesdays. That's is a hashtag Transition Tuesday pretty much on all of the social media platforms. And find a picture of you when you just started and then you now. So even if it's a 3 month gap, a 6 month gap, whatever, and just take pictures in between. You can make videos or whatever you want to do, or just do it for yourself. But you will be fucking amazed at, especially if you do videos too, because I just realized I watched some videos of me from earlier on, and it's all the lighting and angles and stuff are different that way. You'll be amazed at how much has changed that you haven't even noticed. Like, I don't recognize the person that I used to be, a year and a half ago. So I'm sure, Marcia, you're the same.
Oh, yeah.
Taryn, you're the same. So for
I
five,
I I like to say that in your first, like, at least in my first year of transition, all of my selfies had an expiration date of like less than 3 months.
mhm, very good point. Very good point. Yeah. So
I mean, I do it kind of as like a photo log, just seeing progress.
I
I
have
mean,
to
when I
run to
came
the
out of,
bathroom really bad. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine.
yeah, I mean, I just use it as a photo log. I mean, when you look at my Instagram, if you went down to like 2018, that's 3 or 4 months before HRT.
Hmm.
So like that's at the bottom of the feed, but it's like, and then I look at like 2019 coming out of work, being on hormones for like a year and then, just being 5 years in, and it's completely different for me. So, but I love it. I mean, because I wanted that daily diary. So like my partner feels that I'm way too self-obsessed, but I'm like, you know what? This is me looking at that growth over time. Like, I mean, it is so, I don't normally use like I don't think you ever see me really talk about trans joy. Because for me, it's just fucking joy.
Hmm.
Like I don't have trans joy. I just have amazing fucking joy. Like
Hmm.
I embrace it and just love it. I mean, this road is hard, it's painful. We just saw like that, we were talking about on Discord yesterday. It was like, there's challenges, right? And it seems like a whole bunch of people are against us, but it's like, you know, it's for me, like just the way I feel right now, the way just talking to y'all, right? And you know, just being here. No, it's just amazing, right? So it's not trans joy for me, it's just motherfucking joy.
Hmm.
That's it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. I just, I mean, to me, it's just fortunate that I found my way.
Hmm.
Always here for those who need a hand.
It's, yeah, you're right. It is just like, I think we might focus too much on trans joy when it's really just joy. But I think the trans parts of our lives, like, I really wish that being trans wasn't so much of who I am to the outside world, but that's just kind of pushed on us by we live in a society, where we're just in hyper focus. And I'd rather just be able to just fucking go to the grocery store and not have to worry about that shit. Now I have to go to the grocery store and have to worry about being fucking attacked just because I'm visibly trans. And but I really wish that trans joy would just always for everyone just be joy. So I don't know where I was going with that. I'm tired.
I think it's important to recognize the joy that comes from being trans,
Hmm.
because there are certain joys that we have that cis people don't get to experience. That joy of finding yourself in your own skin for the first time
Yeah.
and belonging naturally to the groups that you might have felt excluded from earlier in your life.
Hmm.
There are some very specific instances of joy that are specifically in the trans experience. I think it's important to recognize those. It's also important to recognize how it just brings joy everywhere else, like you were saying.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are the very
Oh,
specific
right.
things.
Yeah. I mean, I just look at it for me like in very broad strokes, right? Like, I mean, I'm one who like I will always refer to myself as a transgender woman,
Hmm.
like or two spirit.
Hmm.
That's just who I am, right? And it's part of who I am. So I make that delineation, some don't. Like with joy, it's just like, that the challenges, whatever it is. Like, I don't know, I just consider it life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, this reminded me of something a friend told me a long time ago. I don't live the gay lifestyle. I just live my life. It's not a gay lifestyle. It's just my lifestyle. You wouldn't go to a dog and say, well, that dog lives a dog's lifestyle. You would just say that dog's living its life. I think that's kind of the same point of, you know, I'm not living the trans lifestyle. Not everything is trans joy. It's just, it's me.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. Wow, holy shit, we've been recording for almost for
You
for a
got
hot
plenty of
minute here.
stuff.
Yeah. Why do you
Yeah.
think I had to run to the bathroom? It's because we
Yeah,
ran long and I didn't schedule that.
exactly. Sorry, not sorry. Um, so we actually covered most of what I wanted to cover. Another one that I had on here is bottom surgery, but honestly, I think that should wait for part two because my electrolysis tech actually wants to be a guest for that
Oh,
to talk
fun.
about that. So she does both. She's a trans woman, owns a trans owned electrolysis clinic, which again in Ohio.
I say you can find good people everywhere,
Yeah.
except
So
maybe in Florida now.
we don't talk about Florida, the limp dick of America. Um,
America's
That's
one.
offensive to lip dicks.
True. The Trump dick of America, the DeSantis dick, if they
Well,
had.
it's much too large to be
Why are
Trump.
you making it so
True.
phallic?
Look at it. It looks like a
Because
dick hanging
one-
off off the country. It looks like a limp dick. Yeah.
Filled with it. Yeah.
Oh my
That
God.
and the capital is known as the cock and balls capital because there's like a spire in the middle and two like domes. It looks like a cock and balls. So I
did not
dated
know
a girl
that.
from there,
I didn't know
and
that.
that's what she called it, was the cock and balls capital. So
It's so fitting
yeah.
and so cool.
I forget where I was. Oh, yeah. So she also does laser. So I'm thinking that having her on a part 2 of this would be good to kind of go in with the bottom surgery, because for almost all surgeons, you have to have hair removal to get bottom surgery. I have been going through that, both laser and electrolysis. It fucking sucks. There's nothing that'll wake you up in the morning like a laser going down across your perineum and anus, or electrified hot needle going right into the middle of your scrotum. And yeah, so but that's an important thing. Hair removal is an absolute vital part of that. And then a lot of us also choose to get it done on our faces, and this, that, and the other. So Taryn, I'm guessing that you used to have a full beard.
Yeah, I mean, I was probably sporting more of a Tony Stark look, but yeah.
Okay. I tried doing that when I got married, and I'll have to try to find the picture. It was bad, but I'm not married anymore. So that can be forgotten about. But I had a full beard. So,
I think
but
when you were talking about electrolysis and hair removal, I mean, that could be an episode almost in itself, because I mean,
yeah,
Yeah.
so
true.
much to learn and to know. Like Kaiser was forcing me into laser, and I'm just way too damn
You
dark.
have
to
dark
laser.
skin.
Yeah.
No.
So I had to fight to get electrolysis, you know. But I think it's like that's an important thing in differentiation. People need to know that stuff.
Yeah, and like for you, Kaiser covers it in Ohio. While I do have insurance that will cover my surgery, they do not cover any hair removal, which is required for the surgery. So
Yeah, I think that's kind of weird. It's like, hey, we'll cover the surgery, but we won't cover the procedures that you need for the surgery.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
I
but
think it cost $11,000 for my facial hair removal.
oh,
And I paid before I got Kaiser, I probably paid like 4 or 5,000 out of my pocket.
it's brutal. But oh man, electrolysis on your entire face for every
That's more
single
than I
thing.
made last year.
Yeah, same. My income's like 12,000 a year right now.
But I mean, I got to tell you, like my skin, y'all can't feel, but it's amazing.
Oh, mine's getting pretty good. I've had like 9 laser
Here, let me
sessions.
reach through the camera.
Yeah, can we just stroke you?
Oh, yes, lovely.
Stroke,
So
stroke.
smooth. Oh
Taryn.
my God. You're so smooth. It's amazing.
It is amazing. Um,
Yeah,
Now we're getting to the awkward phase of the podcast. I'm
You
glad
want
we
to
have a little
stroke
bit more.
mine? I haven't
probably
shaved
say
yet today. It's a little prickly.
I don't see anything.
Yeah,
stand
it's
it.
hard to see.
You see, you got lucky on that part. So,
I'm lucky on a lot of things.
yeah,
We could talk
true.
about the things that we lost from transition, and then I won't be so lucky.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, that gets depressing.
Mhm.
Do you want to do a quick little thing on what we lost? So we
Well,
don't
let's
leave
see. I
them.
lost the job that I had at the time. I lost my housing that I had at my time. I lost most of my relationship with most of my family. My sister stopped talking to me for a long time. My brother still doesn't return my calls. Mom and dad are getting to the point where they'll talk to me and we can hang out okay. I lost all of my friends except for 3. Um, let's see, what else did I lose? Didn't lose my car. I kept that. But I had to move to a new town and everything.
People fucking suck.
Yeah, well, they're all religious, so
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
I
I mean,
kind
I
of
got a lot of
expected that.
conservative religious people in my family too.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I lost probably 10,000 pounds of family members. I
Mhm.
just cut them right off.
Family, for those listening, family, blood does not make family. Family is who you make it. And always remember that if your family is treating you like shit and disowning you, that's not family. They can come around eventually, but you don't owe them anything at all. just burn that into your mind because you're going to have a lot of hate, and it's hard enough trying to fight that. You have to build your own family. That's the social media connections, like just people I've met here doing the show. This is family now. This is my family. So that's what you need to find because you are going to lose a lot when you come out. As Marcy said, there's the job stuff. Like I owned my own real estate photography company. When I came out, my business instantly died. Like it went from, making maybe $3,000 or $4,000 a month to I had to rely on a GoFundMe in order to just buy food that following month. So I've started kind of rebuilding that a little bit, but there's a lot of bigoted realtors around me. So
Mhm.
yeah, you're going to lose a lot, but in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it's all worth it. And I would not, if given the opportunity to do it again, the only thing I would have done different is I probably would have done it sooner. So,
Oh yeah. I mean, I wish I would have done it 10 years ago.
yes,
Although I had the option to do it 10 years ago and I chose not to because I was like, at that point in my life, I believed in what I had been taught as a child too much to be able to make any decision to move forward with this. And
which
then
is
I just
heartbreaking.
put it in a compartment of my mind and didn't touch it for 10 years.
It's heartbreaking.
And
And
spent those 10 years depressed.
yeah, and you hear that story so many times.
Mhm.
It's like
And
missing chunks of your life,
yeah,
you
Oh
know.
yeah. There's like a
It-
6 year period of my life that I have like almost no memories from because I was just so depressed.
hmm and
I
here
I
we are
will
now.
share a positive
So
story.
that's another thing that I lost from transitioning was I lost my depression. Not everybody does that, but I sure did.
That's good.
So my
What?
positive story is, so I've got a brother and um, we don't agree on anything. Politics completely different. I mean, I'm so far left, I'm a French liberal in the 19th century. He's so far right, he's a Trump supporting like 40 guns, like getting guns when they're 14, that kind of thing. And I didn't come out to him, but he found me and cyber kind of cyber detected me. It went to my mom and was like, I think so and so, I'm not going to dead name myself, is transitioning to a woman. And my mom wouldn't say anything, right? Because like my mom also kind of left of center. And finally, I just like came out to him, and he's like, "Listen, I'm just happy for you that you're finally happy." And I was like, it was probably the most surprising thing that happened out of this whole thing was like somebody who I thought for sure would literally be like, "I never want to talk to you again," is like, "Hey, when you coming back east so we can go grab dinner?"
Aw,
Like that kind of
I
thing.
love that.
I mean, that was really inspiring. I've got a few of my first cousins that follow me on social media, and we engage and we'll get together when we meet up. And my aunt, I'm out to one of my aunts, and my daughter, of course, so she's in Florida right now, but came out to her when she was 18 before she joined the Navy. And she was very accepting. And my mom took me 5 times to come out to her because she wasn't quite getting the concept, but like as much as I've cut away, I've maintained stuff with my nieces, like very good relationships with both of them. One of them works for a company in the benefits department and was in charge of doing trans benefits for their employees. So like she learned a ton. So we've been like we were talking back and forth, and I was sharing some things and she's sharing some things. So it's like I cut off a whole bunch of dead weight, and I feel like the relationships that remain were even stronger.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
agree
my
with that too.
Same. Very well
Also,
said.
the relationships that I've made since then have been stronger than any of the relationships that I've made in like the last 10 years.
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. I agree. The only relationship that I've really maintained from my past is my best friend Christopher. So hi Christopher, if you're listening to this. And um, but like I had already cut out all my family before I came out for the most part. So I have one cousin that's very supportive of me. Hi Ryan, if you listen to this, he's amazing. Ryan and his wife Kelly. You are gonna, I guess
Well,
my
find out who your friends are
you
and find out who
definitely
your
will.
allies are.
You definitely
And
will, and
that's
you'll find
kind
out
of what,
fast.
another reason that I wish I would have done it so long ago because, I mean, all the people that I ended up cutting out of my life, having that toxicity gone has made my life a lot better.
No shit. No shit. It's liberating.
And they self-select when you're trans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They pretty much do.
Mm-hmm. So, we're gonna have to wrap this up now, but do either of you have any closing thoughts or plugs or anything that you would like to say?
Okay. Yeah, check out my podcast, Trans Spotting. We talk about issues like this in a humorous way. I'm not sure if we're a humor podcast full of heart or a heart podcast full of humor. We're one of the two.
Or a bit of both?
Or a bit of both. Let's
I'm
see.
definitely listening.
Yes, thank you. And you can find me at Instagram at Ono Marcia, and my link tree's there. I'm really active on Mastodon, but I don't use Twitter.
Good. Fuck Twitter.
I think everybody should be boycotting Twitter at this point. It's just a fascist mouthpiece.
Owned by a notorious transphobe that has a trans kid. So
Well, even did you see what he did with the Turkey thing and Enderkin's election? Because Turkey asked him to stifle all opposition tweets, like 24 or 48 hours before the election. And so he did, because his reasoning was, well, would you rather not have Twitter there? Because that's the other option. And so he got paid like a bunch of money to silence the political party of the establishment. And then the establishment is also one of the most corrupt and fascist nations over on that side. And I think last I heard, they had won the election by the narrowest of margins. So just shutting down the public forum for all the opposition might have been a little bit of added to the fascists staying in power. So I'm not going to support that.
No, that is full on Bond villain. Pure Bond villain. Like that's
Pure Bond villain.
Oh,
It's worse than a Bond villain because it's real.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand how there's not a huge stink about that.
I didn't even know about it. That's probably why there's not a huge stink about it, because it's not getting attention.
Well, I think everybody was worried about the whole DeSantis launch or failure to launch on Twitter. I think that took up some airplay.
Some bandwidth. Yeah, I don't know. Like that's interesting, but blocking off a whole political party from your platform because you accepted a bribe. Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Not the first time it's been done either.
No.
Just this might have been the most disastrous, because this was going to be the election that they finally got the fascists out, and it looks like that's not going to happen.
Yeah. You can't interfere with state affairs like that. Yeah. You're no better than a Russian troll farm.
Yep.
No.
All right, so I'm going to close out my piece. So thank you all for listening. Can't wait to do my next one. Pride Trans March, I think, is the 23rd of June. I think it's a Friday.
That's my birthday.
What's that?
That's my birthday. 23rd. Yeah.
I'll be marching. That's a Friday, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think it's Friday.
I thought it was
Thursday.
Thursday.
So if you're in the Bay Area,
yeah, it's Friday.
Definitely look me up. Always down for a coffee. If you're in San Francisco on the 23rd, I'll be marching and volunteering on the Trans March. You can find me on Instagram at Tarantally1 or LinkedIn. I think it's Tarantally1 there too. I don't know. I'm number one. Who knows?
She's easy enough to find. So
what's that?
She's easy enough to find. If you just type Tarantally, I don't think there's a ton of Tarantallies out there.
So. Tarantallies, but Tarantally1 if you're unsure.
There you go. Because she's number one.
You're number one friendly neighborhood trans menace.
Exactly, the trans menace. I love it. It's so much fun. And I can be found pretty much anywhere as either Vanessa Joy or Estradiol, except Twitter. I'm definitely not going to be on that. I need to check out Mastodon. I haven't even really heard of that, so I need to take a peek at that. But I'm most active on Instagram and unfortunately Facebook, but that's mainly just because that's where I get my business. And LinkedIn. LinkedIn's the best, though. I'm starting to get a little frustrated with their algorithms too, and that's whole other conversations. But again, please rate our podcast. Tell your friends. We need to grow. We have big plans for the future. We want this to become not just Transcending Humanity, the podcast. We want it to be Transcending Humanity. We want to be a hub for people to go to for hope, for news, for financial help, for advice, all that stuff. We want to be one-stop shop for everybody. But we need growth to do that first. So Help us grow. Tell your friends. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been an honor. Next week is going to be Erica's second Trans Joy episode. So look forward to seeing everyone then. Have a great day, night, whatever it is that you're watching this. And if you're driving, buckle your seatbelt or something. I don't know. Bye,
Put them
everyone.
in both.
Yeah.
We need to work on your sign out.
Yeah, I'm not good at that.
Buckle your seatbelt or something.
Buckle your
Bye.
seatbelt or something. So, and then after
I
this,
love
it's
that actually.
I'll slowly
All right,
start
everybody.
ramping up the music.
Buckle your seatbelts. We're
Buckle
heading
your
out.
seatbelts. You're getting the closing music, which is the same as the intro music, which is nowhere as good as the trans spotting music. That's another thing. The fucking song on that, you need to listen to it. It's so good.
We're interviewing the artist and singer in our next episode.
Oh, I can't wait for that. That song's so good. So, okay. Thank you, everyone.
It's very good.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.